I've lived in Europe and Sweden. I spent 10 years in Latin America. And so very much involved with the large corporate world and the regulatory issue of tariffs, quotas, anti-dumping, things with the World Trade Organization. To speak to cybersecurity and its impact, some of the things that I had it's a bit of an overlap from what David was speaking about, and that is the concept. That's put on my glasses, unfortunately. Is that well, to begin with, the impact right now, currently, and we are looking at probably by 2025, what will be spent on cybersecurity will be about 10.5 trillion. In the U.S., just in 2015, the U.S., which of course is one of the larger economies, is the largest economy in the world, has spent 3.5 billion and trillion in security, but it's not enough. And obviously, as David was mentioning, the big thing is infrastructure, commerce, banking. And when we talk about cybersecurity and what its impact is one of the things that's critical are the idea of innovation and the idea of theft.
You have a backdrop, or is I'm going to look that way too?
Sorry. Okay.
Everybody, but Ken, mute, please. Just mute.
But one of the things I've seen, an example to you is few probably know that Skype was developed in Estonia at the University of Estonia. The idea as an economist that when you have incentives, you get innovation. Okay, if you have the concept of insecure information traveling via our communication networks now, cyber theft is so impactful in the sense of people will be very careful, and therefore it actually stifles things. Again, I don't know how much people know here, and I apologize, as David did, to say, well, what do I know about the audience? Well, if you don't know what an API is, it's an open platform that allows programs to be built. And I'm a senior consultant for a company right now that it's called Kinetic. It's in the transportation business, and we are in healthcare, and so everything must be encrypted. But the reality is that this innovation, one of the things that we did was we had this API open platform, so other people's software could attach to it and benefit from it. And of course, we would benefit from it financially in the end by it spreading. But nevertheless, one of the things that when we try and grow internet commerce to allow for better software, people are often building these platforms. An API, it's an open platform that allows other software to use that, and that leaves holes for people to get in there, and it creates real problems in terms of innovation, which is what grows our economies, whether it's in America, whether it's in Europe, or wherever it is in the world. And certainly theft is a big thing. So when there is enough of a breach in cybersecurity, you'll find it changes the balance of power in terms of who gets what software and how things are. In the world today, the largest amount of counterfeiting that takes place in the world is in pharmaceuticals, not in counterfeiting money, pharmaceuticals. And yet today, with cybersecurity issues, the biggest issue that we have is that more money is made with hacking and cybersecurity breaks than any other area. So if you think kind of to yourself about banking, think about one day your money's not in the bank. Or if you think about the issue of commerce, and while Colonial was a pipeline here in America, if you think about intricate parts, and one of the things that's the biggest today in our world are chips. And when you have cybersecurity that could infect chips, could be something that could be so damaging that while a car, 99.9% of a car that's made is all physical interchangeable parts, but yet that small tiny chip may control 90% of the function of the car. And if you don't have chips, well then all that productivity, all that amount of money and capital went into building that assembly line in those cars, that's all for naught, okay? So it's a very important thing to understand that from an economic standpoint of impact, that this issue of the innovation, this issue of theft, and the other thing is, I want to make mention here that is that intellectual property and patents, those things will all become endangered. My book behind you on my green screen here, The Cure. One of the premises in the book is, and this came from having lived in Africa, was that there is a commercial espionage that's going on, and they want to steal the vaccine for HIV. So is that possible? It's absolutely possible. The idea of the new vaccine for COVID, the mRNA, messenger RNA, without going into a huge, although I'm an international economist, my life was spent in biotech and healthcare. This is like ones and zeros. This is like anything else. When you come up with the way you change cells, the way you take a double helix DNA, and you're able to take out a piece in there using restriction enzymes, and how you insert a puck in there to change the complex and what the DNA does, or in this case, the RNA. And that's ones and zeros. That's computer stuff. So again, from all aspects of healthcare, biotechnology, infrastructure, David spoke about cost of regulations. I was going to go into that. That's a very expensive part. And a big part is the loss of productivity. I made some notes here, and I'm not going to go over time too much, but a couple of key things I wanted to talk about was one, and again, I don't know what your politics are, okay, but I would tell you I'm an independent. I'm not a conservative or a liberal. I believe that certain things must be dealt with, and if they're not, as an economist, they will get dealt with via taxes or other ways. So the idea of some of the things that the Trump organization and administration did had tremendous negative impacts. For example, tariffs. You don't win with tariffs. Who are you playing with? You're playing with China. Do you think that you're going to intimidate someone who's now president for life? No, you're not going to. It is stupid. But stupid is as stupid does. That's who he was, and that's who he still is. But take a place like Kenya. Take a place like Kenya. Did I insult somebody? I'm sorry if I did.
Ring the bell.
Okay. Take a place like Kenya. Kenya is one of the largest tech centers in the world today. People don't realize this. There are some key investors that went in there. They took a lot of old buildings. They created incubators. They opened up education programs to teach computers. And the idea of what Trump did was almost a stimulation for the positive and the negatives, that he opened up the world into abnormality. You know, so the idea of non-state actors being able to do things today with education and the internet and people learning in education programs like this. I'm not throwing stones at Kenya, but I'm saying I've been there. I was very impressed with what they were doing, these investors. And I'm not saying that they were doing anything that was illegal. But I would tell you that there were some brilliant kids that were 19 to 25 that were educated and working in these incubator centers, and that can be a hotbed for hacking and cybersecurity. And of course, the last thing I'm going to mention, and then I will get off the air here is the idea of that if we think that we are now we're putting our current skills to play in trying to defend ourselves. AI, artificial intelligence, is creating such an enormous growth pattern that we have to be more target driven to educational programs, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine. That we're an even greater threat. And the last thing I will just say is, I know that some of you are very familiar with this, but because I, as an economist, have worked and consulted with companies, data, well, David spoke about data briefly, and that is that you just don't realize how much data that gets out of you. I was telling my students the other day, I'm still lecturing at FIU, but when they go to a bar, these students, they can drink, and do you want to open up a tab? And they open up a tab, okay, and they've now given their American Express a Visa card to the bartender, and that tells you the time that you logged in when you started the tab, the time that you left the restaurant, all your friends that you sent via Facebook that said, we're meeting at Joe's Pizza, and we'll all have beers there and whatnot. That all gets integrated into an algorithm, and so they know all this information about who you were with, how much you spend, what's your preferences and things like that. So artificial intelligence and algorithms have grown to such a height that the world is extremely frightening out there. So there's not much I can add to it. David did such an enormously global view of everything that I was just making contributions. That's it. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Ken. We will take questions for Ken, if you will. Listen, we've got an enormous program, and I know we got a few things that we want to mention. Of course, this is our cybersecurity and safety platform, and we want to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity to be heard from and share without stepping on anybody's toes. So, any questions for Ken, if you don't mind? Okay. David Robinson has to jump off. He just told us that, and want to thank David for being a part of our program today. An enormous contribution for sharing about shipping and that kind of thing. We have up next, and I'm going to take an executive management decision about that. We have a young 12-year-old, who is going to share with us details and data and information about